Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Long boys blues, 1975. A YouTuber's on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends. But Long boys blues, 1975.
Hey YouTube, Long Boys Post 1975, and welcome back to another Nostalgic Memories of video. Now, you've read the title, Nostalgic Memories of My First American Holiday as a Kid. Quick disclaimer before we get into this. I apologise that I sound like a doped up Barry White, but I am super sick. But I don't want sympathy or anything like that. But the thing is, I don't know about you, I've just got home from work, which is when I usually like to vlog, because I was thinking about this because a little discussion, very short conversation, not discussion, I had with a friend at work about, what a big deal going to America was as a kid. We'll get to that. But normally I'm coughing and hacking like a bastard, and the inside of my head feels like there's very many angry little men punching to get out. But I don't know about you, but when you get to the end of your work day, I think you just about, your body just about just says, screw it, I can deal with this, until you go to bed. And then when you go to bed and you wake up, and it all just resets into a world of the lurgy. So I thought, I'm doing this now. You didn't need to know any of that, but I thought I'd put it in there anyway. I've got my drink in case I do have a coughing fit. There might be some jump cuts or stuff like that. I don't know. I haven't recorded the video yet, but I am going to say this. Pink grapefruit Fanta is both tasty and delicious. This stuff is like fizzy drink crack. It's new apparently, otherwise I'm pretty sure I would have this fizzy drink crack as a problem by now. Anyway, excuse me. Right, so why do I want to talk about this? I've talked about, the thing about these nostalgic memories of, when you're into gaming as much as me, and now obviously as a retro gamer and stuff like that, and collecting some of the stuff I had as a kid, then parts of your life will inevitably be repeated throughout vlogs and stuff like that, because gaming has such a crossover into all aspects of your life, such as, what am I playing now? What did I buy last week? What am I looking forward to in the future? I got this because once upon a time I had it, and when I bought it the first time, I got it here, etc., etc., etc. But I wanted to put it all into a video. Now, as always, I've not, scripted this. I just had a little bit of a think about it at work and thought about it on the way home in my car. So it's going to be all over the shop. And I might be jumping back and forth time-wise, but I'll get there in the end. I like to think that's part of my charm. Or maybe you just think, Jesus, this bloke doesn't have to talk some bollocks. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. Why did we go, on holiday to America in 1991, particularly Boston and other parts of New England, because we spent our entire life before then, going on holiday, within, England, within, Great Britain, as kids. And I love these holidays as kids. Caravan holidays, which I got, nostalgic memories video of, and going to a chalet in a different part of the country, and we'd never been abroad. And, as children, we had friends at school, and that was the cool thing. We're talking, this was primary school, because when we went to secondary school, and kids would always be like, oh, we've been to America. And you know what little kids are like, and exaggerating, like, oh, it's just like movies. There were cops and robbers, and we got in a car chase, and people shot at us, and shit like that. This is primary school. It's always, this is one reason I put off doing this, because maybe some of my subscribers, because, I have a 50-50 divide between sort of United Kingdom, Australia, and, the colonies, if you will, and North America. So I don't want people to think like, really, this is cringeworthy. Why is this a big deal? Well, I was 15. For one thing, I was a kid. Yeah. For the other thing, when you've been brought up your entire life on American programs, we obviously had British stuff. I loved, Last of Summer Wine and things like that. These were like the shows we would traditionally watch as kids, stuff like that. Children's BBC have a video on that, stuff like that. Nostalgic memories of after school TV and things like that. But obviously Saturday nights and Friday night were big TV nights, and we had like the A-Team, Airwolf, the Fall Guy, Dukes of Hazzard, Chips, Do you know what? You name it. And obviously, when I was 15, we also I was into Quantum Leap and stuff. So that was kind of cool, getting to watch an episode of Quantum Leap while we were on holiday in Boston. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. It was never really a big thing. We were perfectly happy going on holiday in within the United Kingdom. And then, and I've always been aware because my dad's side of the family is quite large. There's 7 of them, 2 sisters and 5 boys. And I knew all my uncles because obviously they lived in this country. And I never really knew of my uncle Andrew, God rest his soul. He was never really talked about. He emigrated from this country in the 60s with his wife, who was Scottish. And so, they moved to, well, Boston and then started a family. So this whole other, family tree of Wades, I guess, or branch is the word I'm looking for, grew up in North America, and then they had kids, cousins, etc., 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 etc. So there is a whole, branch of the Wade family, and obviously other names in America, not Canada. I was going to say North America, but no, not Canada. In America, and for years after this, my parents, because they continued this friendship up to sadly when he died. And then later on, many, many years later, sadly, his wife died, carried on going over there to visit him on holiday and stuff like this, or just seeing him briefly and then, touring and stuff like in cars and that, But, yeah, we never really heard of him. And I don't think it was ill will or anything like that. I think it was just, drifting out of touch or falling out of touch with, the Wade kin on this side of the pond. And then obviously I didn't know too much about it. Then little bits here and stuff like that from medical tests and things that he would have when we were there and stuff. Obviously, I'm not going to go into it to great personal levels because it's that's not for you to know. But he had a serious illness. It was it was in remission, I guess, at this point. So he decided to get back in contact with those of us on this side of the pond, and so this is when we became aware of him. And my parents and the Wades on this side of the Atlantic will keep in touch with, and then one by one different family segments. I can't think of the words. Sorry, I'm tired. We'll go across and visit him and stay in his house. He had a nice big fat house with a basement. He had an awesome basement. And so, it was brilliant. And then it would come around to us. But we grew up and we got to talk to him from time to time on the phone, and his wife, Joyce. It just grew from there. And it was brilliant because, to find out, especially when, like I said, America was a cool place. Obviously, when I say it's like the Holy Grail and stuff like that, you're basing this on, you've grown up on TV for like that. What you experience when you're there, by the way, it's all positive. I'm not saying that negatively, but that's entirely different because then you realize that, oh my God, they're just like us. But yeah, so, they were back in touch and, and then we were going to go there on holiday. But before that, I do remember I phoned him up once and found out, just talking to people, and this is before the internet, so I can't remember what I found out. But I remember that back then, American films would come out on VHS. Sometimes, like, before ours were even out in the cinema, the equivalent film. So I got him to send me through the mail. It probably wouldn't have got through customs. Well, no, it would have got through customs now, probably. Well, if it wasn't universal release date, is what I'm saying. Copy of The Little Mermaid, because it's my favourite Disney film of all time, and a copy of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, because that was nowhere near release at this point in this country, but it was the one that was available specifically in Pizza Hut. It even had Pizza Hut vouchers on the inside. Then I found out that you needed an NTSC video recorder, and then I started saving up for that, which was, what I'm like, I already had my Mega Drive at this point. Yeah, I was great, stuff like that. And then another great adventure started of getting tapes from America for movies that were not even in the cinema in this country, and being a legend amongst my friends and at school. I've got the Terrence and Phillip movie, Who Wants to Fucking Touch Me? Anyway, so that aside, it came down to July 1991, and we were going to go out and visit him for 3 weeks because my parents were like, well, if we're going to go to, Boston, we're going to go to America for the first time. Why do 2 weeks? What's the point? You got to remember, though, because there's 3 boys, so there's 5 of us all together. This would have been a really, really expensive holiday. So, the fact that we were being put up for free basically subsidized it. That was because we were going to stay at his house. Obviously, we went to different places with him sometimes and without him sometimes, without him and his wife, I should say, or immediate family, and would stay in motels and stuff like that because we went to Washington and places like that. We drove to Niagara. That was a long drive, but it was yeah. So it's three boys to have to fly to America with you. That's why we only went once again the following year. Then after that, well, we were adults at this point. I left school at age 16 and obviously then went to college, etc., so forth. But anyway, I'm waffling. Yeah, so we were going to go for 3 weeks. Now, I had 3 jobs at this point, and the other great thing was it was $2 to £1 at this point. That was great. So I basically saved my ass off in my jobs because you got to remember, at 15, I'm still going to school. So this is still the year before my exams, my final exams. So I saved my ass off in my 3 part-time jobs and got £125 together because I think I only managed to save it. Like we only had like a couple of months before we knew this was happening. Yeah, and save. And I was still buying Mega Drive games. I'm not going to save everything up for this. I was a child. I wanted to live life, and so I had $250. American or US. Sorry, but obviously I'm not going to take pounds over to take on holiday, and I was really looking forward to it because the main thing was it's like they've got Mega Drive, but it's called Genesis. Because I knew this from my more so the comics and the comic adverts where when it was first released and double sprays in the middle for like KB, Kmart, Walmart, I don't know, I can't remember, with the NES on one side, Super Mario Brothers 3-pack, and then the new I was going to say Mega Drive Genesis on the left, and Altered Beast and the initial bunch of games. So I was really looking forward to that. Don't know what my twin brother, my older brother were, because Ian had an Amiga and Jason didn't have anything at this point. So I think they were just going to the fact that it's America. It's cool. I was like, I'm taking some money to buy some bloody video games. That wasn't my main excitement for going there. Like I said, when you've grown up on American shows and stuff like that, this was super, super exciting. It was really exciting to realize and meet another half of a family that until very recently you never even knew existed. I cannot tell you how exciting that was. So we got to the day, and I've told you this story, but I'm going to put it in there anyway. Sonic was released the day before we flew out. So was it July? That'll give you some indication to when it was. Sonic was, and I remember thinking, I'm going to keep some money for that. I don't care that I only get to play it for a day. I have to play it. This is a big deal. Got 2 buses downtown for the day before we started, not just flying, but I'll get to that. To Virgin, walked straight in. It wasn't like it is now in pre-order and shit like that. Walked straight in, picked it off the shelf, 2 buses back, played it for 1 whole day, and then that was it. And had to wait 3 weeks before I could play it again. At which point I would have another 2 games, 3 games. Excuse me. Please heal me, pink grapefruit. Because that phrase did not sound awkward, did it? So then the next day, we all got up super early. Excuse me, Windy Pops. We drove all the way from here to the other side of London because my Auntie Sue, my dad's side, who'd been to see, Andrew and his family with her husband, said we could leave our car there for the 3 weeks because they had a big house, and they would drive us to the airport. So we drove to Heathrow, and this was another big, big, big deal. We'd never flown before. That must have been interesting as well, having 3 kids to take with you, and you didn't even know how they'd react to flying. But then I think being scared of flying is not something you have as a kid, is it? Because you don't overthink things. I used to be afraid of flying, but then when I had a job that meant I used to fly about 30-odd times a year, and that was before I, moved to Canada. They're short flights and stuff like that between Ireland, Scotland, UK. But yeah, that drums fear of flying at you. But as an adult later on, slightly before that, I hated it when I just used to fly to Canada for holidays with my mate, with my mate from school. But anyway, I'm waffling again. So yeah, but we were fine. I think the main thing was, 5-6 hours. Jesus, what am I going to do? Got a movie. Read a magazine, had a flight meal. This is taking forever because I'm a kid and time runs in a really weird fashion. I do remember one thing. I knew that Terminator 2 was out over there and not out in our country at this point, and I've made one of the biggest regrets of my life ever, because the trailers didn't give it away, and this was before the internet, so I did not know that, sorry, can't believe I'm doing this, spoilers, Arnie was the good guy. Did not know that. Did not know that until I bought a magazine, and it was a video rental magazine, but it was the only one they had in the newsagents at Heathrow Airport. And I bought it, and that copy of Viz, which when we did actually get to America, the American side of my family read it and just went, this is a comic? Is it? Well, it's not really a kid's comic. This is filth. But anyway, yeah, so I bought this magazine, and I can't believe they were allowed to put it in there, because they didn't. They did say it. It wasn't like you could work it out from pictures. But I remember reading it. This is halfway through the flight, because I'm reading it cover to cover to make sure I was killing time, because then the only thing I hated about flying was the time. And then I found out that Arnie was the good guy. And I always still is there. And don't get me wrong, when we saw it twice, over there. It just like, fuck. If only I hadn't read that magazine, that would have been like, and blown and warped my tiny little mind. Told you this video was going to be all over the shop, didn't I? And anyway, so we landed, and it's really hot, it's really sunny, it's really bright. We're at the airport, and this is when the first things start, kicking in, which is, I don't know what those crisps are, I don't know what those chocolates are, I don't know what that fizzy drink is. Look at those magazines. You know what I mean? As a kid, this is mind-blowing. And then all the posters and adverts around, the airport and stuff like that. And you look at it, and it's all new stuff. It's all new stuff. It could be something as boring as toothpaste, but it's something you never even heard of. And then obviously hearing the accent on TV, I don't care what anyone says, accents are cool and exciting when you're a kid. Hearing the accents on TV, you don't really hear it on TV, do you? You just know it's set in this land that you think is really, really cool. But you don't hear accents, because it's if you consistently watch that much American TV as a kid, you get used to it. But when it's all around you in different pitches and different tones and different variations of the accent, it's like, this is weird but cool and exciting. And then, and then you see the cars. I mean, I saw equivalent models of ours, like European and British cars, but then you see all the big fat American cars, big fat square station wagons from the 90s, and you just think, fucking huge. And that no one drives a stick. Maybe that was just then and not now, I don't know. Again, I'm sorry this is cringeworthy, but I just wanted to make this video. And then we met my Uncle Andrew and my Auntie Joyce. And they completely lost their accents at this point, obviously, because this is like, 30 years. I mean, I guess some people can retain them, but... and then it was like, hugs, and this is really exciting, and talking, and just like, hey kids, look at this. And we went on this massive drive from, I don't know how far the airport was from them, but they lived in the sticks, I think. But yeah, it's bright, it was sunny. I remember seeing movie posters when we were like, in overpasses and underpasses and stuff like that, and looking around, seeing all these cars and stuff, and it was hot, and we had aircon in the car, which is a new thing, and the radio station, here on the radio station, it's alien. So I cannot express that when you're a kid. Maybe kids these days are so desensitized to this stuff, it doesn't make sense, but it was so alien in a really exciting way. And then we drove, but it seemed forever, because we're tired at this point, jet lagged and knackered, but still running on, like adrenaline and excitement. And they're talking to us about all this cool stuff, and filling us in, and talking to my parents about when your Auntie Sheila came over, or my dad's sister came over, and they were saying to you, hey kids, your Auntie Sheila came over, your Auntie Sue came over, your Uncle John came over and stuff. And what they did, and funny things that happened and stuff like that. But again, it's just... to be where, and this is when it first kicks in. So as a kid, you're like, this is so cool on TV. But then when you see stuff like traffic lights and people walking across the road and people walking into stores, and then that's when your brain just goes, I don't know why I didn't think it would be like this. Again, because you're a child, you got to remember that's key for this nostalgic memories of video. You're like, oh yeah, for everything that's different, essentially, it's just life going on in another country. You didn't think that when you were a kid. You were so sucked in, because obviously these are action shows and stuff like that, but you were so sucked in by it that I guess you didn't really know what you were going to get. You're just going to get exciting and cool and stuff like that, really exciting, but just going to get life in a different place. But then we drove out into the sticks, and then all I can remember was it was like there were all these roads going through a very thinned out wood, is all I can say. And all these houses, and they were all wooden, which is a new thing for me. All wooden, none concrete. And they all had an American flag. His had an American and a British flag. Some had pools, some didn't. Got to his house, met his dog, met his daughter. I mean, she was like 7 years older than us at this point. And then obviously he had two other daughters and a son, and we met all them eventually, and they all did great things, like because his son was a Coast Guard and took us out with to see them for a day and stuff, and they all entertained us and stuff like that, and entertained my parents. It was brilliant. I guess it was exciting for them to realize that, wait, we've got English relatives on that side of the pond. And I remember we went to sleep in the basement, which was brilliant because not every room in this house has aircon, because it was like, I'm going to do this in Celsius because they did it in Fahrenheit and I could never wrap my head around that. It was about 30 degrees and it was hot. And we were in this basement, and then we had these little windows at the top because it's a basement, and it was super cool, cold. 3 cots, a TV, and a VCR. TV didn't receive anything. TV, VCR, and dug out the attic or the loft. Excuse me. His daughter, who obviously moved out years ago, old Nez, with 2 games. There was a baseball one, and there was Mario, obviously, and we played them. That was kind of a nice touch. Then we would go up to, they had 2 lounges. One was the grown-up lounge, and one was like a separate lounge for us. Maybe built it in advance and just thought, I don't know what these English kids are going to be like. You hear such horror stories on the news, but it had cable. I never seen cable before. I never seen it. You could get movies. Obviously, it was pay-per-view at the same time they were out in a video store. That was unheard of in 1991 in this country. That was like half the time we would just sit there watching the trailers for like Predator 2, Delta Force 2, and stuff like that. I do remember watching on a Sunday afternoon on a cable channel, not pay-per-view, The Exorcist, which was banned in this country at that point. I have no doubt it was dumbed down for TV, but we're watching The Exorcist on TV on a Sunday afternoon, which is banned in my country. Wow. But it was great. It was fantastic. We had barbecues. We went over his, kids' house and stuff like that. They took us on trips. We drove to Niagara, stopped along the way. We drove to Washington. Then what was it? The other ones we went to, we explored New England and stuff like that. We were on loads of road trips. Sometimes with them, sometimes without. Stayed in lots of some really, really dodgy little motels. You have no idea. I've never seen. You see it now, and it's a piss take. But back then, I was just like, I put money in this bed, and it vibrates. Even as a 15-year-old kid, this is all kinds of wrong. And then we went to malls, and you got to remember, malls didn't really exist to such an extent, to that degree or size in this country. How much catch up we've played. And yeah, that was a mind blower, seeing guns for sale in a mall. That was a mind blower as well as a kid. I'm not bringing guns, do we, or shouldn't we own them and stuff like that. I'm just saying that was something you would never, ever, ever see back then. And then the video games, before you went into an independent little store, because there was a place we went to called the Winner's Circle, which was amazing. The first time I played Simpsons Arcade, Mad Dog McCree, Street Fighter 2, they had a big fuck-off projection screen. Used to watch the monsters there, go there and have burgers and stuff. The food was amazing, but it was over the road from Kmart, Walmart, KB's, I don't know, I can't remember. And they had a little video game selection, and I think the first game I bought was, don't ask me why, Atomic Robo Kid. Next game I bought, which was actually in an independent video game store, was Hellfire on Genesis, and the third game I bought was Fantasia. There were no reviews at the time. We had no internet. I had Castle of Illusion. It was amazing. The box art made it look fantastic, and the graphics amazing. What a waste of fucking my hard-earned cash. Well, that might be in the next year. But it was just, just getting to experience what you'd only ever seen on TV, but guided by a family whose house you could go in. So you weren't living out of a hotel room and stuff like that. You had family meals, you had dinner, you had supper, you had breakfast. Everything was kind of laid back and easy. It wasn't, regimented by hotel ins and outs and clocks and when to eat and stuff like that. That made it absolutely amazing. It wasn't just a holiday. It was hanging out with people you'd never met, and going to the cinema. We saw Terminator 2, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was absolutely mind-blowing for me. I preferred that more than Terminator 2. Though when you go, because if you're in North America, I'm sorry if this is cringeworthy, or America, or Boston, driving along, in the sticks, and there'd be like, at the side of the road, there'd be a big, massive car park, and shops would go down one side, along the back, and up the other like that. You'd have a mom and pop store, maybe a laundromat, video rental store, and being able to rent video games. That was unheard of in the UK in 1991. Absolutely unheard of. That blew my mind. So we rented some NES games. And also, that's when I realized, why do North American videotapes not come in a clamshell? I never understood that. Like, that's cheap card, and it dents. It's crap. And then seeing that video games just came, they wouldn't obviously give you in the box. It was just in a see-through plastic one with only the instructions that some kid had scribbled all in on the back. And if you were lucky, there was a save state on some of the cartridges. But that was a mind opener, renting games. And then also seeing Sega games on a Nintendo system, that blew my mind. Wait, Afterburner, Alien Syndrome, Shinobi, why are these? I mean, obviously it's Tengen, isn't it? Who did it? But like to me, being a Sega boy, this was like, wait, what? This does not compute. And then buying Game Pro magazine and stuff like that, buying American Candy, getting the bubble gum that came in tapes, getting the. Did you still do this? Which is so wrong. Probably PC Brigade would not let you do it. You used to get like bubble gum with a baseball player bloke on the front, and it was shredded to be like chewing tobacco. Because, hey, kids, we want to encourage you to, get mouth cancer. That was mind-blowing. But, yeah, all the different, sweets and stuff like that. Chocolate bus. Three Musketeers, I remember that. Back when I still had a sweet tooth, this was good times. Like, yeah, Three Musketeers, wow. You're like a Milky Way, but massive and much better. But Reese's, nah, peanut bar, don't like peanut bar. Peanut bar, like... with chocolate, a chocolate bar, wrong. And also, why don't you put butter in your sandwiches? As a kid, to me, that was like, even years later when I lived in Canada, when I asked, at Subway, I don't want mayo. Have you got, not Subway, the breakfast, the dinner part of the mall, the deli area, or whatever, like, what do you want? I want butter. No, we don't have butter. What do I want? You got mayo. What do you mean just mayo? Mayo needs to be on top of the butter. It's addition, not a base. Sorry. But, going to all these stores and stuff like that, going to malls was exciting as well because the scale and the size and the variety of clothes and the variety of products you had. And not that we lived in a fucking archaic country. That's just the nature of when you go to a different country. And I'd never left my country before. So that was a really, really big deal. 4th of July, because my Uncle Andrew had a boat. He had a pretty, not like massive yacht, but it had a tiny little sleeping area for, 2 people and like a table and stuff like that. So he took us out in the harbour. That was great. Took us out in the harbour. We watched fireworks at night on the 4th of July. That was absolutely fantastic. It has to go down as one of the best. Doesn't replace or better my caravan holidays and stuff like that, but has to go down as one of the best, memories, nostalgic memories of my life. Hence the fact that I wanted to make this video. Going over his friend's house would be like, oh, these are, someone would let us, like, never even met us. Like, oh, they can come over and use our pool and stuff like that. That was, it was so nice. Everyone was so friendly. And yeah, it was just such a mind-opening experience. Plus, also, this is when The Simpsons just got absolutely massive. So we came home with a bunch of fucking Simpsons merchandise, gifts for friends and stuff for us. I still have my Bart Simpsons 1991, so it's ugly Bart Simpsons money box. But yeah, it's just all these things. And then there was the comic store. I've still got comics with the back card in the original bag, like all the Jim Lee X-Men and stuff, because I can't remember the name of the store, but again, it was in the burbs somewhere. And we went there, and they were so nice. The comic book owners, there were 2 of them, and just let my parents and uncle and his wife just go off for dinner and stuff like that, and leave us at this comic book store for like an hour and a half. We buy comics and stuff like that. But these 2 guys and one of their wives would entertain us, and they had a big 4-player X-Men arcade cabinet in the corner that I'd never seen of before and stuff like that. And yeah, and then they would, in hindsight, I think they were pimping up comics for us to send to us, but they were recommending stuff, we were buying it, and then this was just before X-Men, because this is the year before Image, and obviously this is when all the Marvel Marvel promised them they could have their own, like reinventions or new start series of like stuff like, Rob Liefeld got X-Force. I got the X-Force comic when I was there with the trading card in the bag, and that was like the biggest selling comic, wasn't it, until X-Men came out. But yeah, Jim Lee was going to get his X-Men series and stuff like that. I bought tons of old, and they're worth a fortune now, Uncanny X-Men stuff there. But what they actually did was they got them all, every single one of them. We now know that they're worth fuck all, but we don't even care about that as a kid. And yeah, they sent them to us. Send them to our house when we were back in England like a month later. I mean, obviously we paid for it, but to me as well, that was like, that's going above and beyond. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that comic book store was amazing, and we went to Cape Cod and stuff, and then we learned, because I was a kid and my parents hadn't been to America before, so don't laugh, which is, oh look, you could have a sandwich, you can have a beef sandwich and chips, boomf, that's a hot beef sandwich, that's a bag of crisps. Oh yeah, beef sandwich and chips, that's a bag of crisps. You know what I mean? Again, that's not me taking a piss, it's just the way it was. Yeah, it's all these things. I've waffled some bollocks, I know that, but and like I said, the cars were huge. It just like it's basically, like I said, it's you've always been excited about this place, and part of the excitement is never being there, and it didn't disappoint, you know. And obviously, it was a different side because we were spending it with our, the other side of our family. But they're just like us. Sure, the brands are different, the cars may be different, better TV, better stuff to watch on video because it was just newer. But yeah, because I remember when you were a kid, you just think, oh, you're so lucky living there, and then you go there and you think, oh, it's brilliant. But then you're just like, well, essentially, it's still life. Life just goes on. But those 3 weeks were amazing, and then we went for another 3 weeks the following year. But the first going there in 1991, as a kid, and I talked to my brothers about it, and they were like absolutely blown away and loved it. They didn't go for the video game side of it like I did. That's not why I went there, obviously. I was a passenger anyway on this journey, but I had to put it in this series of videos. I'm sorry if it's been cringeworthy, not just to anyone in North America, or America or Boston, my subscribers, but also to anyone else in Britain. I guess it's a thing of my age, my generation, and growing up on these staple American shows. Bought TurboGrafx in a mom and pop store as well. Remember that? I bought that, and I remember it in the motel. We stayed there because it was just me, my brothers, and my parents at this point. Watched an episode of Quantum Leap. There was a whole season ahead of the UK. That was the one with when they're in the pyramid. And Al sticks his head through the wall and comes back because obviously he's seen a mummy. That was fantastic. Anyway, I hope this hasn't been boring to tits and shit, but I wanted to talk about it because I wanted it in this playlist. But nostalgic memories of first going to America as a kid. Loved it. Fantastic. First time flying. First time being on the wrong side of the road. First time sleeping in a basement. First time renting a video game. It was just amazing. If I never watched American TV, would it have the same impact? I don't know, but I loved it. And as always, thank you very much for watching, sitting through this, may I add. And I'd love to know what you think. And thank you very much for watching. Where am I looking there? I should look there. And I'll see you later.